Hello, and welcome to Confidently Wrong, a show by regular dudes talking with confidence about content we have no right to speak about with any kind of authority, but do it anyway. I'm Wesley Nakamura, and as always, I'm joined by award-winning director Brian Redondo and Savon Jones, aka Captain Vonnie. This is episode 85, and we discuss the premiere of Andor, the latest Star Wars show featuring Diego Luna. I'm confident that it's going to be the best show you've ever listened to, and well, hey, if it's not, you can always ask us for a refund.
Incredible!
Welcome, gentlemen. We're back, and it's living large time with Confidently Wrong.
It's so large.
We're here to talk about... It's not all about size, Brian. We're here to talk about Andor, the newest show. I don't even know what to call it. The newest experience.
It's a show
from Disney Plus, Lucasfilms, all of the above, Star Wars universe, starring Diego Luna as Cassian Andor, a character we last saw in Rogue One, which confusingly comes after this show because this is like a prequel to Rogue One, which is a prequel to A New Hope. You know, so but not like the prequel trilogies. It fits in between. You know what I'm saying? It fits.
But technically, it's a sequel to the Clone Wars saga.
Oh, and we lost him. Now look whose internet is failing. Brian is just frozen, staring at his ceiling. But no sound is coming out.
I feel way bad. I thought that was me. I was like, ooh, that was going to be... I was like, no way, that's me. I thought I addressed this preemptively.
Yeah, Savon was like, my internet is really unstable. I'm going to switch it up to the hotspot, use that corporate theft here. Stealing of the hotspot.
Why are you dry snitching? Oh, man, y'all hear this, audience? Wes is dry snitching so hard.
Well, I don't know. Should we wait for Brian to come back, or should we just continue the show so we can join in when he comes back? If this was a live stream, we would just keep the show going,
Yeah, this will be funnier in the editing booth, so for you at least. So
Nah, I don't edit shit anymore. I just let it ride. Whatever's in there is in there, from the beginning, from the end. I cut the beginning, I cut the end, and then that's it. Whatever's in the middle is in the middle.
All right, so we're talking about Andor, though.
Andor.
Yeah, so we were saying, what's Rogue One? So,
yeah. So what's
audience,
Rogue One, Savon? Because, I don't remember anything. Like, that was, 5 years ago, 6 years ago?
Came out in, 2016.
Yeah, there's no way I'm going to remember any of that.
Yeah,
Jin Urso. That's what I remember.
It's not the worst thing to remember.
All
so,
right.
yeah, for my people who are not remembering everything, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, came out in 2016. Very successful movie. It existed as a prequel, somewhat, as Wes said, to A New Hope. It takes place between the movies, and it had its own completely original cast that involves a ragtag group of various just vagabonds and ne'er-do-wells and rebels.
Ne'er-do-wells.
I'm saying they didn't all, yeah.
This is a workplace Savon summary.
What, is ne'er-do-well bad? Is
No,
that a bad word?
That's a great word.
Oh,
So
I thought you were saying it like
just-
that was a swear or something.
No. You just workplace Savon right now. I'm liking the change up.
Workplace. Are there ne'er-do-wells at your workplace? You got to get out of there, man.
Depends on what you mean by that.
You know what I mean by that.
No,
this ain't
but-
Apex Savon or New Orleans Savon. This is workplace Savon.
I don't know what you're talking about. No idea. But for my people who haven't seen
Okay, so
it,
that's Rogue One.
Rogue One, it's a ragtag group of people. They end up basically stealing the plans that allows for the Death Star to even be vulnerable. But great movie. It ends up being an extended suicide mission, basically, where most of the main cast dies. In fact, not most of, everyone dies. But one of those characters that Diego Luna plays, this is his story. So it takes place before. This is him and the events of his life leading up before he actually ends up with the rebels. And so, we're getting to see how he got there. And we're getting a much grittier, darker side of the Star Wars world because it's a lot more removed from the Empire and Jedi conflicts that we see majority of the time.
I also wanted to add that this show is sort of being headed by Tony Gilroy. Not someone I'm familiar with, but he also wrote Rogue One, so he's very familiar with thinking through like who this character was leading up to that movie. So I'm sure he wanted to flesh that out some more. So great get for Disney to have him stay on the project or to get into the project. He also wrote Beirut, and he also wrote some of my favorite movies, which is the Bourne trilogy. All three of the original ones, Bourne Identity, Bourne Supremacy, and Bourne Ultimatum. Bourne Ultimatum gets really good. I think that still stands up many years later as an action movie and kind of an adventure thriller through different great locations. So this guy has been in the he's been in the business. He's very experienced and has written some really good stuff. So I think all of that is really leading to a show that, despite having, I think probably has different directors would be my guess, has just been like really fun to see. So compared to Obi-Wan and Mandalorian and Boba Fett, which I think are natural comparisons because they're all these Disney Plus shows in the Star Wars universe, this feels, to me at least, it feels kind of different. And I'm not even sure how to explain what it is. Maybe Brian, you've seen the episode, so maybe from a filmmaker's perspective, you can kind of peel back the curtain, so to speak, on what they're doing. But in general, are you guys enjoying this show? To me, it feels really cool and interesting and like lived in. So I'm just been really interested. Brian?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things going on in this show. I mean, the lived-in thing is one aspect of it that does set it apart from the rest of the Star Wars universe, which tends to be verging more on the fantastical side of things, and space epic drama and whatever. But this show is way more grounded, and I think a big part of that is the genre approach to this show is very different from the rest of Star Wars, right? Like even the opening scene of the first episode, it feels less like we're on some planet in the Star Wars universe. It's not Tatooine or anything. It actually feels a lot more like Blade Runner, right? It has kind of the cyberpunk aesthetic to some degree.
That's what I was thinking.
Right?
That's what I was thinking.
And you got this guy, and it's raining. It's dark. It's raining. He might as well be in a trench coat walking into an illicit bar where he's got to throw down with some, drunk thugs who are giving him a hard time as he's searching for a missing person. Right? That all of that screams to me crime noir with the cyberpunk edge. Right. And that, I think that kind of energy persists throughout the rest of the series. Even if the locations change, you do get that sense of darkness, of this gritty crime underground that Cassian is involving himself in. He's got his fence, he's got marks, he's got buyers, and they're all doing this form of doublespeak whenever they're interacting. They're like, they're using jargon that criminals use in the underworld, but that people like us have to work to understand what they're actually trying to get across, right? So you have this very sharp, tense dialogue. Cassian's trying to get a buyer. He's trying to get off planet, but do it in a way that nobody knows, and it's going to cost them extra. Plus he needs it to happen immediately, so he's got to barter for all these things. So you have a lot of these interactions going on where there's duplicity, there's conflict. People obviously have different agendas. We don't know who to trust, and so all of that builds into this kind of
tense
God, that guy sucked. Tense energy that I don't think we get a lot of in the rest of Star Wars, right? Where it's just a battle between good and evil, and Jedi's talking about midichlorians and some nonsense like that. This could really work actually in other IP and in its own little sandbox of the universe, right? And so I think that really is what sets it apart from the rest.
I love I love the beginning when he's in the brothel, and they didn't like pull punches about it being a brothel, right? Little bits of them leaning into this is a bit more mature. But I just love the whole, I'm looking for a lady. Oh, what kind of lady you looking for? This kind. I'm like, well, we got this kind. No, I'm looking for this kind. And I love that double speaks. I'm like, all right, I know he's not about to I know he's not out here just cruising for booty, but clearly there's something else going on. But man, I'm digging it, dude. It's the intro, the beginning sequence too is dope because that was probably one of the of all the sequences of Star Wars I've seen in my life, that one probably made a blaster feel the most dangerous. To your point, like, did y'all not feel that way? Like when they pull that blaster on your boy, never. That was the only time in Star Wars I was just like, "Oh, you're in trouble, dude." Most of the time, blasters are meant to just create this feeling of conflict, but not really be an actual danger. You're getting shot at, no one's getting hit. But nah, he was just straight up, pistol to the back of your head, run those pockets. You're getting robbed. Like, yo, man, that was very realistic. Like, man, that's how I go.
And then the outcome of that shakedown, right?
Yo,
he turns around, somebody gets a blaster to the face.
Yeah, he manslaughters one dude. I'm like, all right, cool, that was an accident. Stuff happened, and he feeling bad. But then he straight up execution style is like, oh, wow. I'm like, oh, all right, we're really doing this. Like they clearly were trying to make a point early on to say, hey, this ain't like your other Star Wars bits. We by any means necessary. It's gonna get gritty. Our main character immediately shoots a man on his knees begging for his life to let you know it's one of them kind of shows.
Yeah, I mean, he can't, and that's one of the themes, right? Is that he can't get out of his own way. He's come up with challenges, and you see glimpses of them throughout the first few episodes of challenges he's faced both before and now, and he keeps sort of tripping up over the things that would have been the way out, right? He's always
shiesty.
he's trying to come up with like a new scheme to get out of his previous bind. He owes all his friends money, and his plan to get them their money is to like do some other scheme and do some other, heist or something like that, or some other job to get the money to pay back his friends or his acquaintances and all that. It's just, it's a really like interesting network that you're really trying to just figure out as it goes on. And what was nice about it, I thought, was they didn't really like try and over explain everything. Like, obviously they explained it enough that you could get it, but you did have to kind of work for it. I think Brian is right? Like the scene where he's talking with his friend, I think it was Brasso, one of the workers on Ferrix, and he, I don't know if it was Ferrix. It's the one where they have the hammers and the miners or whatever. And his friend he concocts a story to his friend about where he was last night and how they were hanging out, and his friend, like, without missing a beat, like adds on to his story. And it's just like, in real life, I don't know that would happen, right? Exactly, in the same smooth way. But on screen, it just works. You're like, ooh, these guys are in it. They like know each other. They can.
You never had an illicit conversation with a friend about something that shouldn't have happened, because that was extreme. I can think of several people where if I walked home and I just started saying, hey, bro, yesterday you did blah, 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 and I was at blah, 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 they know what's up.
Yeah,
I got friends who are like, don't involve me in your fucking mess. And then they walk away.
Yeah. But he didn't just say, oh yeah, I got you, fam. He was like, let's add on to the story to explain like why your face, has that extra thing on it. Like, let's make it like actually real. So they had not maybe done this exact thing before, but you could tell they were of the same like ilk, and they know each other. Yeah, and they knew what was coming. Right? Like, without having to explain it, they knew, like, hey, if you're starting to make up a story like this, like, things are about to go a little bit off the rails. We better be prepared in a really serious way, because this security group is a threat to them in the way that they're living their lives. So, and you get all of that just from these conversations that he's having with the people around him. So great. I don't know, just great job by them on doing stuff like that. And he's an underdog in this way, right? Like, we're starting to learn, like, he had a real, pardon the French, like a really fucked up childhood, it seems like, right? Things kind of went down on his planet.
It's Star Wars, bro. Aces are pretty pretty standard issue.
Yeah.
Adverse childhood experiences.
I mean, Luke had a pretty
kids getting killed. What do you know?
Nice childhood, but.
Yeah, up until his family got murdered, right? When he was 18, out with the desert man, he finds their burning corpses at his home and then leaves to fight in a galactic civil war.
Till then was probably fairly normal.
But I will say,
he got kidnapped by Reva and Obi-Wan, and she tried to kill his family. He was a kid.
Did happen. That was a little retcon, but before that, it was peaceful.
Wes.
But I would say, though, that the way it's portrayed in this, the dread and terror of what's about to go down and what's going to happen to all these kids feels a lot higher than it has in other Star Wars vehicles.
It's because it's like unspoken, right? We haven't seen what happens. We just see the little inklings around the security team, like all the white coat guys in that big like beautiful conference. By the way, the design of that conference room is just amazing.
Oh, you want to work there? I think they're hiring.
Yeah, but we haven't seen like a Vader enforcer. We've really not seen them do anything. It's just they're omnipresent, right? They're monitoring everything. It's the surveillance of it that actually is the biggest like big bad here, right? So far.
Yeah.
I don't
they're
know.
way
Empire
scarier
adjacent.
than
Yeah.
stormtroopers.
Right? It's the threat of
Empire
what could
adjacent.
come, not an individual they can really focus their energies on. So yeah, I agree with that. There's this looming tension and threat about what's about to happen. And we know, right, this is not the fully fledged empire yet, right? They're going to become even stronger in the next few years. And so you're just like, oh my goodness, if these guys get caught now or they mess up, like this is really going to be the end of it.
One thing I'll add, because you were saying what's the difference between this show and the other Star Wars shows, this is the biggest difference. Our friend Andor, how do I put this? He's just a dude. And normally when I say someone's just a dude, I say it in a bad way to describe them as unremarkable or not being able to, not fitting into the world that they're in. But in this sense, him being just a dude works because when you watch Obi-Wan struggle on screen, you know at some point he's going to activate badass Obi-Wan and use the Force and lightsabers. So even when things are a struggle, you're like, I know what his ceiling is. Same with Boba Fett. Same with Mando. They both have times where they're kind of, even when they're low and in a struggle, you know that there's potential of them to wait till he gets his armor, wait till he gets all his weapons in badass gear and ship, and just they're completely decked out heroes.
Yeah,
he is not that. He's sleazy, he's in debt, and has burned and over-tapped into every relationship he has. He's not some badass with a laser arm or a sword. He's a dude, a crafty, kind of shicey dude who's very resourceful, but at its core, a dude. And it makes the challenges of his situations a lot more real because he doesn't have just some type of ability or thing that can bail him out or a squad of goons and people who serve him. He's really just got him and, family, but even in it, strained family relationships. And to your point, Wes, for this show, there isn't even antagonist. There isn't a Vader Emperor presence who can just embody all of the antagonist force. They just exist.
Yeah.
It's like it's just the government, right?
Yeah,
And
she's trying to fight the system almost here, right? And
the system isn't
that's almost
person.
scarier.
It's just because it's just to your point.
Yeah.
It's very impersonal and just omnipresent and just there. And
you're not picking Cassian Andor in like Tekken 8, right? He doesn't come with any powers or a power set of any sort.
Exactly. He's a dude.
Yeah.
So it really sells the idea of the overwhelming odds, and for whatever challenges I'm sure he's going to find himself in, that it'll be satisfying to watch, but it's not just going to be him badassing his way out of it. Because when it's all said and done, he doesn't have the resources or information or any of the stuff. He really has no advantages against the people he's up against.
Yeah, this is not a superheroes versus supervillains show like a lot of other Star Wars properties. And I mean, in episode 3, Andor takes a blaster shot, right? So, like, he's not, yes, he does have some plot armor because we know he's in Rogue One. But he takes a hit. We don't see that in Star Wars.
Yeah, you don't
As
have to
you
die
said,
to be...
blaster battles are kind of just background fireworks for the most part in Star Wars. But that
Boba Fett got pretty injured in Book of Boba Fett.
And they had but they had their armor and they were getting lit up. But they also had a fight where they're literally just tanking, like they're still eating damage, obviously. But that's different than just a dude without armor who doesn't have a badass bounty hunter on who's just working for him for free. Like we really, I think, don't realize how decked out these protagonists in these other Star Wars shows actually are. They get a pretty good amount of resources. They have goons and actual friends.
And Cassian is not a crack shot with the blaster either.
No,
they were not knocking
he's not
out
Han Solo.
Yeah, it's like just one shotting like every like mob character that comes at him. They had to use their wits to get out of that situation. And the only way they're, evading the corporate law enforcement is basically doing some terrorist stuff, really.
Oh, so they lean into that in the later episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
See,
It's
that's
definitely a big part of
exciting.
the show. It's a big
That's
part of the show.
exciting. Because, that's one of the hardest things, that's one of the challenging parts about Rebel stuff is that when you're really at war, there's absolutely rough stuff being done on both sides. And not to say that the Rebels still aren't sympathetic, but it makes for a more interesting narrative. Like, all right,
Oh
what
no, they
point do the
haven't
end
done
justify the
done
means?
rough stuff yet.
I,
It
We'll
was
see.
it was just like they destroyed the building, they blew up some stuff.
I mean, that's
yeah,
like,
they set off
This-
explosives.
right, because the whole point of guerrilla warfare is people will say, okay, what about the civilians who don't want to be in this conflict? And they'll say, oh, the rebels are making it worse. Like, there's
Yeah. Nah, but they
you know-
haven't taken it to the civilians yet. Maybe that'll come.
But we do see that whole I don't know, that whole planet or that working class sector of the
Mhm.
empire. You could tell everybody there hates the empire. Nobody likes their station, and that whole scene of just them like locking down all the shops and storefronts
Yeah.
and
And
clanking on all the metal objects around to basically like signal to the entire community like the long arm of the law is here. We do not like these people. We're going to hide from them, and we might even attack them. So I think just that ominous threat of that kind of thing happening, it
Teacher
made it
walkthrough
feel
energy.
grounded, right? It felt like guerrilla warfare. It felt like,
Were you disappointed the clanking kind of didn't lead to a whole lot?
well, they
wasn't-
alluded to it, like
Yeah.
Andor's surrogate mom or kidnapper, or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call her. She alludes to the fact that you don't want to be around when that clanking stops. And that promise did not quite get fulfilled. I felt
No.
like.
It might
Unfortunately.
revisit it?
Maybe, but the clanking actually stopped. Like they made a point of it stopping, and then nothing happened. So it was a little bit weird. So this, I love lightsabers as much as the next guy, right? But we're back in this Rogue One aesthetic of, like you said, the normal people, the regular guys. Nobody's a Force user. Nobody has access to a kyber crystal here. Nobody has access to like a really great
Beskar
speeder.
armor.
Yeah, none of that. I guess Luther. What's his name? Not Luther.
Luke?
Nope.
Skarsgård?
Stellan Skarsgård character. What's his name? Luthen, something like that. So Luthen has money, it seems like. But everybody else is just sort of scrapping their way to wherever they can get to. What are the details that are standing out to you as you're watching these first few episodes? Because I think there's just a ton of cool things that they've done in the show that aren't necessarily plot driven, but they help characterize the world or the people and the values of these different worlds. So what have you liked? What stood out to you so far? I mean, I can tell you. Well, I can tell you for like what I was looking at. I mean, the performance by Diego Luna was really cool, and I think part of it is because he doesn't have to be a detached, helmeted, character like we saw in the past 3 Disney Plus, things. So like Boba Fett is pretty like stoic. Mandalorian is obviously extremely stoic. Din Djarin is not able to express in very many ways. He's not able to emote, and that was one of Brian's biggest criticisms.
He can't show his damn face.
But even when he did, he was still not super emotive.
But that was by design, which worked when he had his helmet off.
Debatable.
Yeah. But I'm saying it's a nice thing, and even Obi-Wan is a Jedi, right? And so he's very much in this like spiritual place. Diego Luna and his character here, Andor, is not that. He's expressive. He uses his whole body, his whole face. You can feel what he's feeling. Stellan Skarsgård, similarly, right, is able to use his body, use his acting and his face to really get you to feel what they're feeling and get you to understand what that character is about. You're not just guessing, and you're not feeling like, oh, I can't relate to this person. Like it's hard to relate to Din Djarin. It's hard to relate to Boba Fett. They're just sort of, very, very stiff. And the characters in this are not. So
They
do
do that thing as we talk. They do that thing I was talking about, Wes, where people don't talk in shows the way they do in real life. In the other shows, people are kind of more like monologuing and giving weird, just like one-liners. And in this one, there's real organic back and forth between people.
Oh yeah.
It does feel more organic. Yeah.
Like when Andor's at the crib and his mama is just grilling him about, hey, yo, what they doing asking about this planet? When the hell did this ever come up? And you could watch it. This is great acting. Watching him stutter and stammer because his mama rightfully called him out. He
was like, no, nobody. Okay, maybe one person.
Who did you tell?
Yeah.
Hold on, they are family. If you telling
yeah,
you can watch.
You must
him,
have told him. Yeah,
you can watch him,
and
then she's just like, and what about all these girls? And I don't even know all the names. There was Tisha, Shaniqua, LaShawna. I met Nikki at an ice cream parlor. He looking like DMX in the song, and he just but just yeah, to your point, it's fun to watch the protagonist. Like there's multiple like conversations he has with other characters where he's not, I don't know, he's not winning, if that makes sense. I don't know. People put him on his toes. Yeah, people like rightfully call him out. Like suppose he's trying to call in a favor and Homer's like, no, I'm done with you. I want nothing to do with you. You tapped out every favor we've done. He's like, come on, brother. Come on, let me borrow your charger. Let me just hold a couple dollars. You know,
why is he
give me a burger today.
Yeah.
Give me a burger today, and I'll
I give you two tomorrow.
He pulling all the stops, but all that just builds his character. Of, you know, he's clearly our protagonist. It doesn't mean that he is inherently heroic. And even though we're following his story, he hasn't really done anything heroic yet. He's really just self-interested and kind of just doing what's in his best interest, which is still the result of like foolishness. So it'll be nice to see. At least maybe it's happened with y'all. I'm only in episode 2, but I'm hoping we get to really see him find, you know, we know he's going to find a greater purpose. It's going to be fun to see how that happens.
But he doesn't find his greater purpose. Well, I guess he does find it a little bit before Rogue One.
Yeah,
but in Rogue One, he switches
Rebels.
there too. Yeah, but he has a big change in Rogue One. His change in point of view is actually one of the bigger ones, right? He's the win at all costs guy. He's like super committed to being a rebel and destroying the Empire, but forgets to see the humanity, right? And his relationship and his interactions with Jyn Erso is what helps him start to see like we do have to also still be who we are. We still have to have our feelings and do what's right. And like that he's reminded about why he's doing all of these things, right? And that you can't just be a terrorist to be a terrorist, right? Like it's not just about, you have to acknowledge that there's people, everyone, you know, has their own humanity. So in this one,
is that what happened?
Isn't it? Yeah.
Savon's giving you the most incredulous look right now, and it's lasted for a good 2 minutes. Your face is gonna get stuck that way.
It might.
I mean, the other thing,
if Wes keeps talking,
one of the details that I really loved in this one is, like you said, the worlds feel like they have their own culture, and it's been sort of thought out in their environment. Like it makes sense why a town that is entirely based around like mining and manufacturing has just this flat table of a bell that's really unique, and that you play by hammers, and it's because like, oh, that's literally like that's a representation of what their culture is and what they valued. The Cassian's Canary tribe, their group is very ragtag looking, but the way that they have their weapons, they're very clear on like what their strategies are going to be. They don't have to explain it. The kids know how to use their tools to great effectiveness. You know, so this show seems like it's really well thought out. It wasn't sort of just rushed together. And the thing I really like so far, at least, is they haven't dropped in a whole lot of like fan service cameos.
Thank God.
Ahsoka, I'm looking at you.
Wes, that is the worst take you've had, and I read that in the notes, and I was just like, I felt my face flash. I was just like, this is such a dumb take.
It's a great take.
No,
no fan service.
No, the Ahsoka part, because
she just drops into Mandalorian, does nothing, has no impact, and then leaves. That's it. That's what happens.
You could have named that character Bob, and you would have been okay with it because it didn't exist in something else.
Absolutely, but they didn't.
Brian, you know that's a dumb take.
However, I think, are you calling it dumb because the Ahsoka episode was actually like the best episode of The Mandalorian?
I mean, that's it. Well, Ahsoka
Like she made it a
came in-
better show by her presence, but then
Made
she
it
dropped
amazing.
out.
he's mad
Absolutely.
because she exists in other
And then-
media.
And then
That
she
is
said
why he's upset.
deuces and left.
No,
she was
no,
like, no thanks.
I don't think it's that she exists in other media. I think it's they use it just to bait fans. They just use it to make you thirsty and like, oh
But-
yeah.
But if you
It's
know
the
the
same
character
problem that
already, it's a
She-Hulk has.
dub. Yeah, but if if you don't know who Ahsoka is, it doesn't take anything away.
It does because we know she
Oh, I
was a
see what
Jedi.
you're
We're not going to leave.
I didn't know who
That's my
Ahsoka
point,
was. I didn't know who
That's-
Ahsoka
that was my
But I
point.
thought
My
she was
Yeah.
a dope
No,
character.
I agree. That was part of it, that you guys had built her up so much. But also, she was the Jedi, and they were looking for a Jedi. So they had spent 4 episodes looking for a Jedi. They drop her in. She's the Jedi, and then she's like, nah, I'm good, thanks. Like, I don't need
I
any
feel
of
like
this.
you did not watch that episode because there was an entire plot thing that explains why she couldn't.
Just because they explained it doesn't mean it was good. Like, I mean, it just didn't make sense. Whatever.
I love
So-
how Wes used this example to basically relitigate something that we argued about like 2
Yeah.
years ago.
We don't need to do that. I was right. That was a stupid use of her, given that she was awesome. Brian is right. She was awesome in that episode, and then they were
Banish
like, nah.
yourself to the Shadow Realm.
Anyway, so we do get mentions
Wrong
of,
IP.
or we see Mon Mothma, who is someone we've seen in other previous things. So I think that is a little bit like, okay, we're trying to connect them. Saw
Show's
Gerrera,
ruined.
I think, is going to show up here in an episode or two, but for some reason these seem to work a little bit better, right? It feels like Mon Mothma is going to come back. She actually like has a part to play in this, and it makes sense why she's here given the stakes of where they are in the timeline. So it doesn't feel like, oh, we're just going to have Mon Mothma here so we can spin her off into her own show. So good job, this show,
You
for
disgust
not making
me.
those mistakes.
You disgust me.
Why?
You said before they did it with no reason. I
No
said
reason.
they gave a reason. Then you said it doesn't matter if they give a reason if I don't like the reason. Just like stop moving your damn goalposts. Your arguments are bad, and you
No
should
way.
feel
That's
bad.
a stupid
Wes.
reason. She
I
was
want
like,
you to go into the Texas
uh,
Devon and get go on
I
a
really
vision
connect
quest.
with
And I want you to
Grogu.
meditate on your takes.
She did a whole thing where she like connected with Grogu, and then she was like, "No,
Yo,
I can't."
Venmo West money so we can send him just on like a sabbatical so that he can realign himself and maybe you I don't know, Wes.
No, she was like, "I can't." No, I'm good.
I'm on your bumper today. Sorry.
A whole
Not
episode
sorry.
where she was a star and clearly the one meant to train Grogu, and then was like, "Eh,
That was just poor writing. Really,
I'm just gonna be on my way."
You're
Thanks.
agreeing with this
See you
garbage
later.
take,
It was,
Brian?
it was bad writing. No, I mean he's right. Ahsoka should have been the one to take Grogu, and then they're like, well, we're saving her for her own show.
She said why? I feel
That's
like
the
y'all-
reason.
Did y'all
We
smoke
know the
weed during these
reason.
episodes? Do y'all just get like dangerously high and
Do you
then
just
just watch the
believe-
colors and don't do nothing else?
Do you just believe everything that they feed you on screen? Like,
I disagree with stuff all the
why
time.
are you
Just
so
not
like
this.
accepting of that stuff? If it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense.
I just think y'all don't make sense.
I mean, you're not wrong there.
It's okay.
However,
I'm
on
really
this
just
one
bringing some
individual
clash
point-
to this show.
But I will say like I do think Star Wars or Andor actually, I mean just through and through, we've already talked about it, has way better writing than these other shows, right? Like
I can't even tell you why. It just feels better. It feels more real. It doesn't make me roll my eyes.
yeah, because these are real characters who have agendas that conflict
Relatable
with other
agendas.
people's agendas, and you can feel the tension and the anger coming from those characters, right? Like as you pointed out, most Star Wars characters are not allowed to even express any sort of emotion. Oftentimes it's the androids who have way more character than the
Oh damn.
the
Never thought
bipedal
about that.
characters.
And Chewie, right?
And for once we get, when it comes to Rogue One and Andor and now Andor, we actually get the human characters who get to feel rage and show intensity that is driving all of their behavior, and that behavior makes logical sense to us, right? In the way that the way that the story is unfolding, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I get it. I get what this guy is
Yeah.
after. I get that he's angry. I get that he is scared, also scared for his life. And that brings me to the other thing that I think elevates this show relative to the rest of the Star Wars canon, or the recent Star Wars canon, is that I feel like this show actually has something to say other than let's show like cool blasters and lightsaber battles and talk about random Star Wars lore, which, you know, I could give a damn about. I know Mike is all over it, but I'm not. So what I'm what
When
I'm
was the
talking,
last time I heard the term world building?
I know, right? And
They do good world
the
building in
thing,
this show.
yeah,
to
the
be
thing
fair.
is that this
Yeah.
show does world
Yeah.
building really well, like the mining town and people clanking on objects and the guy ringing the bell by clanking on an anvil. Yeah, all of that great world building. The other part of the world building that I think where it really matters more and that the Tony Gilroy and company are trying to say something is when it comes to our baddies, right? And when we're talking about the corporate security, for one, like the first 3 episodes, not even the Empire really, it's who the Empire has hired.
Yeah.
Who they're
to
outsourcing
oppress
their
people.
goonery to.
Yeah, so it's
they're too busy.
I mean, come on, the U.S. does it too, right? Like we send mercenaries to Iraq and stuff.
The
And then-
entire Cold War.
yeah. And then you know, and you know, they're oppressing the, you know, the mining people. And then finally in episode 4, we get the imperial bureaucrats who are, you know, having tense meetings about this stuff and bickering over you know,
Territory, jurisdictions.
It's like a small council meeting.
corporate ladders.
Yeah.
And because we're getting all of that, we're kind of seeing, you know, systems of oppression at play. If I can jump on that academic high horse for a second, you know, like
yeah,
like
we got room.
we're seeing, you know, we're
Saddle up,
seeing
baby.
how this kind of stuff just works, right? Like there are individuals in these positions who are essentially given some form of authority, given a little extra degree of ability to go out and use a blaster against people to rough up the population, you know, to just wreck things up. And, you know, and people are, you know, taking an inch and going a mile with it. And that has devastating consequences for people like Cassian Andor, and that's why they're upset. This is exactly why the rebellion exists in the first place, which is something I don't think we get to see a lot of in the rest of Star Wars. Like we just take it at face value that these guys are evil. But this is how we get to see evil not perpetrated by the Darth Vader type character, but by a group of ordinary people, right? They are the ordinary people on the other side of the divide. And we see exactly what they're capable of too. And especially with the dude that launched the entire investigation into Cassian, right? Like his own boss told him to let it lie. And he was like, I got to do my duty. You know, we can't let people run amok and let them get away with this. We really need to clamp down on these guys. And he finds somebody else who is just as zealous as he is, to, you know, amp up to that whole spiel of like law and order.
Yeah.
If that sounds familiar to you, and now we got to go crack some heads. And that, you know, that's kind of the world that we're living in. Some people
real world
really
analogs.
want authoritarianism, right? And this is where this is how that's being you know, made plain in the Star Wars universe. And so I think this show is actually really commenting on all of those things. And then so the rebellion is going to take on even more weight and meaning once they start ramping up in the second half of the series.
I'm actually really liking the complexity of all of that so far that they've layered in. The corporate security folks, right? In some ways, they have power and yet they don't have a lot of power, right? They're still kind of serving at the whims of their corporate overlords, powers that be, and the way they're getting incentivized to do different things ends up sort of creating the situation that is in. And we don't know the full situation. We don't know what laws they tend to enforce and don't enforce yet. And the supervisor who's like, hey, if you go after this, like this creates actually these other ripples and problems in terms of like our careers, not necessarily in terms of the people or in terms of like how the colony functions. And in some ways, like that's bad too, right? Like if you just do things to like check the boxes in your job when your job is actually supposed to be security or whatever, you might end up being negligent in a way that actually lets all of the certain things that you don't want to have happen. But maybe that's good for the rebellion, maybe that's bad for the rebellion, we're not really sure. And then it's kind of interesting when we get really a peek into the Empire's role in this, and in a more centralized way, like at the C, like it's like a couple levels above that.
C-suite.
Yeah, right. You're starting to see like the little the vice president level, right? We're seeing what they're doing and how they own these different territories, and it's not clear to me yet whether the folks that run this are clear that what they're doing is evil, or whether they actually think in some ways like, if I hit these targets and I do these different things that my supervisor are asking of me, I will be holding the Empire together.
Oh, totally.
Right? Maybe it doesn't
You're
seem like
describing capitalism right now.
Yeah, they're
like
they are bureaucrats.
This could not be.
Yeah.
This could be a not Star Wars conversation, and all of the talking points you make. This is how it works in real life, dude.
Yeah. But I don't think they're fully unaware. I don't think they're like well intentioned either. Right? So far, the two that we've seen the most interact in the latest episode, Brian, I wouldn't say that they're well intentioned. I think they know they're screwing over people
that's my
by
point,
doing
though.
what they're doing.
But they also feel that that's what they're responsible for,
right?
And that's what they're going to do. Right?
Yeah, and I don't know that they know that the impact of that is going to be thousands of people are going to lose their lives or not yet. Like, I'm not sure if these folks are on the zealot spectrum. Are they closer to like Kylo Ren and they love the Empire, or that guy that loves the First Order in the later episodes, or are they closer to like, hey, I'm just trying to do my job and do it well, and the result of that ends up being like I'm fucking people over? That part is hard to tell, and I like that it's complex right now. They haven't made them seem like, we're seeing the humanity in these like vice presidents. Like, no, they got there by being a little bit ruthless, but I don't know if they know that being a little bit ruthless means that like thousands of people are dying or living in poverty.
They're like white-collar workers who are tasked with some duty that involves things that are very far away from them and their everyday lives. But they're just focused on doing that job so that they can climb the corporate ladder.
Right. It's like, fill out my reports, make sure they're good. Let's get the most productivity.
I'm fighting for more jurisdiction so that I can get a promotion and climb this ladder. And I really, maybe I do know that it hurts people. Maybe I don't, but that is kind of insignificant for me getting my job done. Yeah, that's the way that I read it.
Yeah, I mean, that's how systems oppression work.
But they're not evil in the way that like like General Tarkin, right, or something like that. These are not that level of malevolence.
Yeah, but
it feels like so far.
Yeah, but that's how it works. That's exactly how it is in real life. In real life,
this is why I like it. This is nice about that.
Yeah, in real life, it isn't Jeff Bezos getting his scalp oiled and him rubbing a cat saying, we're going to take over. I mean, it's that, but what it's perpetuated by is, people in positions of power who are ultimately just doing, quote unquote, doing their job. And they definitely know, this keeps people in poverty, or this screws over workers, or, my money comes from people being paid below living wage. Like, there's no way. I mean, there's probably some levels of cognitive dissonance, but there's definitely I think it's very similar to real life, where in some point what role you play in the system. But the way the systems work is that if you diffuse the responsibility in enough directions, everybody has plausible deniability. So outside of whoever's maybe the emperor, everyone else can kind of just pull some variation of I was just following orders, doing my job card. If you're the person who makes the tank that blows up innocent people, to what extent should you be held culpable? If you're the person who's responsible for deployment and assigning battalions of ships that do atrocities, where's that? It's what makes these conflicts complicated, is because some people, by choice or not, are forced into these systems where you have a hand in it, and some people have a bit more say in their role, others don't, and it does make it hard to say, okay, well, are anybody's hands clean? What's the sliding spectrum of your hands being clean? Okay, what if you knew something that you could have done to stop it, but doing so would have been at great personal cost? All right, well, do you expect people to throw their lives away to maybe do the right thing for a cause? Like, it's messy. But I do agree that this is one of the better depictions of how actual like evil in the world looks. it's not Darth Sidious. It's shareholders of people disconnected from it in such a way that it's not people's lives. It's just numbers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's what it really looks like.
And Tony Gilroy's track record. I mean, the Bourne Identity series trilogy, where actually there's 4 movies. There's that Jeremy Renner version, Hawkeye up in there.
Oh yeah, they made
So there's
one.
5 actually then.
Oh, but Jeremy Renner, the Hawkeye version, that's kind of like his assassin persona in the MCU. So maybe they unleash him. But anyway, I mean, like this, it's a similar theme in those movies, right? Is like, you know, Bourne is just some agent, right? And that they take advantage of him, and then there's like the dark, shadowy.
Well, and then he becomes a
bureaucrats.
threat, and so then they're like, well, we'll just erase him. Like, it's just
annihilate
a
threat.
small deletion.
Yeah, exactly. But I think we have that going on here with the Imperial folks, but then we also get the zealot dude that's in the corporate law enforcement.
Yeah,
right? And he himself, we get to catch a glimpse of his backstory in the latest episode. He himself looks like he comes from meager beginnings, just like the people that Andor is with at the beginning of the show. But yet he, feels the need for the law and order ideology, right? And so I think something's going to happen with his character. Obviously, I have a feeling that he might be weaponized by the Imperial forces at some point, right?
Which I thought you were saying maybe he would end up being like, oh, actually, I need to join the rebels.
It could go that way.
It could
go that way. But if this show is going to
that'd be weird.
bleak,
I don't know.
No,
if this show's going bleak, he's going to be weaponized by the Empire, right?
Okay.
In the same way,
or you get both.
In the same way that we know some, working class law and order folks are also weaponizing the universe that we exist in.
January 6th, we're looking at you.
Yeah, I mean, people in power by design, use propaganda to weaponize young men and radicalize them online. Like radicalizing young men for causes that you don't want to basically fight proxy wars and culture wars isn't a new concept. You know. But to your point, Brian,
the MO, yeah,
it's like that's the number one option in the playbook. All right, cool.
We don't have to fight it. We just get these other people who love to fight. Yeah, let them go.
Oh, bet this is easy, and it just stirs up dissidence and conflict and just beef. Oh yeah, this is a win. But no, Brian, I mean, either way, this character, his arc can be really fun to watch either way, because I feel like no matter what direction you take it, it'll be satisfying. Do you watch him just go down a rabbit hole and becoming full-on zealot empire? Do you see him fall so low that you realize this ain't it because he has a limit? Does his meager beginnings give him a shred of empathy that helps him do that? Does he go through a Zuko arc or do it like,
Zuko arc,
or a failed Zuko arc, which would be even better? There's for a character like this, because you can tell that it's not coming from a place of maliciousness, which is what I appreciate most.
I think he was being malicious. But
you're talking about our friend from the beginning, right? Who was investigating? Yeah,
the Aryan dude.
Yeah, like he's not meant to be likable, but he almost gives me John Walker energy of he's not meant to be likable, but he's not just kick a puppy evil either. He just has ideals that are misguided and
a little bit,
manifest in toxic ways, which
it's
I think is a more
right?
interesting character.
He's a character.
He's not
in
evil.
Like if you dialed him back like 5%. He's like the ideal like teammate worker, right? He's like, I got your back. These were people I worked with. These were people like on my team. I want to have them have justice for what happened to them. Like I don't think, And he's like,
somebody shot him in the face,
right?
Yeah.
And he's like, we should make sure that like we do things right. We're like get to the truth. Right? Like, let's not just like, let's make up a lie because it was like whatever. He's like, no, we should do things the right way. We should handle it. Like, he's like, I should present like you saw he tailored his like uniform and they made a big deal of that. It's like, because he takes pride in his work. And so if you dial back his craziness by 5 or 10%, it'd be like, dude, this guy would be like great to work with. You'd know he'd have your back. You could go like do anything with him and he would do things the right way. He'd be reliable. Yeah. Like, he's not about like, he's not going to be bribed, right? You can't like,
That's why he's gonna be a fun character,
like
because he has he's not likable, but he has admirable qualities.
Yeah,
it'll be different if he was shown to be shiesty and deceitful from the beginning.
But he's doing it for the police. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, what are you doing?
Okay, but I'm saying, but you got to look at it from his. It's not about
Yeah,
what
exactly.
side you're on. It's about what your lens is coming from.
I
They
wish
got
we knew
characters
more
who
about
do the
him.
right thing for the wrong reasons,
Yeah, I
and
wish we knew
characters
more
who do the
about him.
wrong thing for the right reasons.
Well, we are going to learn about his reasons, I think. I mean,
I hope so.
They show him
Like,
going
he's kind
home
of-
to his like
Yeah.
cute little like Italian
Older
mom
mom,
or
yeah.
something.
She
Yeah,
slaps
kinda-
him though, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
But he's
and
kinda
then
like
she
Andor
yells
a
at the
little bit,
neighbors
right?
across the way. What y'all looking at? Like,
She slaps, but then she hugs him. She slaps him and then hugs him.
I think she used to be
Yeah.
my landlord.
But he is kind of an interesting parallel to Andor, right? A little bit of
Oh yeah,
they both come from humble beginnings. They clearly have branched in opposite directions. And to your point, like I said, I'm still behind with y'all, but from him,
He's
seems
inflexible.
to be he has a moral code that he sticks to
Right.
and values.
Andor does not. Andor is very flexible.
Andor, yeah, and so, but it's funny because Andor is our protagonist, who's shown to be much less trustworthy and true to his word, and
Right.
he's a lot more slippery and kind of shysty. Like, he owes
Yeah.
people money. He's
He's not
paying back. Like,
honorable.
dude, just because he's the protagonist, y'all would hate someone who borrows money, doesn't pay it back, and still
Yeah.
asks for a million favors.
Yeah.
That's the worst person to be around. But yet he's
That was me
our
in my
protagonist, and then our antagonist is a tight, got it together, mostly clearly very honorable, but
Yeah.
not likable. And so I think that's going to be a fun journey to watch these two, because we're clearly cheering for Andor, but your boy's kind of like, I'm sitting there like, yo, I don't like you, but you're right. You know that Onion meme of the worst person you know makes good point. Like, that's just him. He's like,
Apparently, I get that award every episode from Savon. All right.
yes.
Two-
Yeah. To think about it. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Whenever be like, worst person you know makes valid point. I'm like, yeah, Wes, you knocked that one out the park. Eye twitch.
Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's like, I'm a good person and I make terrible points. Maybe that's what it
Yeah, I
is.
think that's yeah. You say a lot of the wrong thing for the right reasons.
All right, let's start wrapping up. We got 2 quick questions. So I think Star Wars fans, should be into this. I don't know that this is getting as widespread sort of play or attention right now, especially since there's so much other stuff going on in terms of shows and content, and it's the beginning of the school year and all that.
yeah. It doesn't feel like it.
But should I want to think about like non-Star Wars, like should Anna be watching? Should Jen be watching? Should Tyler be watching? Are people who are not into the Star Wars universe, would they be into this show? And for me, I think yes. I think Diego Luna is great. Stellan Skarsgård has been fantastic. Like we've been talking about, the writing is good, the pacing is good, and I feel like you don't have to know about the wider Star Wars universe to start appreciating like what the situation is right here. Like you can get that in the first 2 episodes and jump right in and not have to feel like, oh, I don't know what like Darth Vader is. Like, okay, fine, but like that's not what this is about so far.
Yeah, I think there is so much goodness going on in this show, and like you said, you really don't need any of the Star Wars canon to get it, right? Like if you have ever watched a crime noir movie, people doing the double speak, trying to get out of bad situations, trying to get out of Dodge, there's something there for you to grasp onto. And then now that we're in episode 4, we're switching to more of the what's going on with the guerrilla campaign of the rebellion, and what are the things that they have to do to execute their plan. They're planning a heist through and through. So I think we're going to get some more of those tropes coming in. And so if you're into any of those things, I think there's plenty here. And then all the stuff that we just talked about when it comes to the Empire and how they're being treated and handled in this show, I think that, like I said, could
If
compare
you're
this
interested in
to
systemic sort of things.
yeah, but if you're into it's kind of like that depiction of evil that comes across in like the Born Supremacy movies and whatever, I think that's there for you. However, I will say, Anna is a big Star Wars fan. She loves those prequels. Let me tell you, there are some Jar Jar
'Cause they're
Binks toys
good.
in her childhood bedroom.
Terrible.
Terrible.
Y'all
Debatable.
are terrible.
Anyway,
Stop defending the terrible.
she has decided to invest more time in her phone than watching Andor with me.
Okay, interesting.
So I think this style of show it might actually not be for everyone. But I do think it's a great entry point into the Star Wars universe for people that don't typically like Star Wars.
Savon, what you think?
You disgust me today. But no, but in terms of the overall show, I think that the Star Wars tag to it will push more people away for what is otherwise, to what we talked about, a really good show, because it's not about the Star Wars tends to lean into being more of a fantasy epic. This isn't a fantasy epic. This is a spy, to your point, crime thriller. This is more of a thriller than anything else. And you know, a lot of the visual things you expect to see in Star Wars aren't there. This isn't a lightsaber story. That isn't the Force. So things like that some people just aren't going to be into isn't even present in the show.
Ships don't shoot blasters. Pew, 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 pew,
Yeah, like, you know, there
yeah.
aren't, like, some people aren't in it for that.
No pew-pewing.
Yeah, there's not a lot of that. Like, you know, those little, even, like I said, I'm not as far as y'all, but even the one example of us seeing a blaster, it was used very sparingly and lethally. It was like, hey, we're not firing off 1,000,000 shots and then dodging them. No, it was we held them up, bop, shoot them in the head. Very, very to the point.
Wait till you get to the episode 3 moped chasing, though. It kind of takes it down. No, I'm just kidding.
That'll
There's
be
no
fun.
moped chasing.
Well, you have a hoverboard chase scene. So I think the show, for what it actually is, you don't have to be a big Star Wars fan or even like Star Wars to enjoy it. Because to your point, Brian, when I first started watching it, I was like, yo, this is giving me big Cyberpunk vibes.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is how I felt when I was playing the Cyberpunk game, with even like the double speak and the, you know, you have fences and the little underworld stuff that's big in Cyberpunk. So that alone could scratch the sci-fi itch people want. And then the rest you're getting is just character-driven drama, which works really well. I think this show is good and accessible the way I think She-Hulk is, where these big IPs can feel intimidating because of all the related content, and you don't really have to know other things in the MCU or in Star Wars to watch those shows and say, okay, pop me in, what's happening.
Right point, wrong example.
Like for this show, like for this show, it drops you right into Star Wars. You don't need to know any Star Wars characters because everyone is pretty much a completely original person.
Yep.
Every other show, it wasn't the case. Obi-Wan, Mando a little bit, but I think there was a lot of them going off the recognition of the armor and the culture piece. You know, Boba we already had. This is a very new thing that they've done.
Well, Rogue One, I guess. But yeah, Rogue One itself was new, I think, is also the point, too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's play a game. The rules are very simple. It's called How Will They Ruin It? So Disney gets its little tendrils into Star Wars sometimes and kind of messes with it. So what's the most plausible way you can think of that this show in the next few episodes or the remainder of the episodes will get messed up? Brian, what are you betting your money on? How are they going to screw this up?
They are actually, I know some of the things that you guys are going to say, so I'm going to go with something a little different.
All right.
They're going to Disney-fy this show by making it a happy ending story where Andor has this great conversion and he's like, yeah, we gotta fight the Empire. And he's like, he just does a sharp turn and he's all for it. And then like he's got to do like his big hero thing, and he gets like super plot armor by, you know, shooting like, I don't know, like 1,000 Imperial stormtroopers, and we have no idea how he did that with one tiny blaster while they had tanks coming at him, and then he's gonna fly off into the sky, and like not a single injury, no one died.
You're describing the original Star Wars ending.
Our boy Zuko is gonna like come in and help him, and they're gonna like be best buds. And like pinch each other's cheeks.
Describing episode
Millennium
6.
Falcon.
I might like this actually, but all right.
Y'all describing all the stuff that happens in the original movies.
Yeah, Brian doesn't want that.
No,
he wants it to be,
that would
but also because
totally
this is starting
defy
gritty.
what they're setting us up for.
Yeah, all right, I get that. So I think they're gonna mess this up. We're gonna get a few more episodes in, and then they're gonna drop Ahsoka into the thing as a cameo. And they're gonna screw up the show for no reason.
up.
She's gonna
I
help
will
them do
fight
the
you.
heist. She's gonna help them do the heist, and then be like, "No, I gotta go. I'm sorry, guys. I can't help with the
Send
rest
me
of
your
this
address.
plan."
I can't do this no more. We are fighting fisticuffs. I don't care. Put your dog up. It's a
Meet me
one-on-one.
outside.
Meet me outside. You could tell your wife and child they can watch. They can not watch. I don't care. We're doing this.
I would
I
totally
can't-
watch.
If
We're doing
Ahsoka
this.
shows up, I'm
Brian,
turning
you
it off.
next.
Immediately.
You next.
Immediately,
Brian.
I'm turning it off. I will not
I'm
watch
riding
it
on
anymore.
both. I'm riding
I
on
swear to
both of
God.
y'all.
She is alive during this part. This is a timeline where she is alive. It needs to go away.
You need to go
If
away.
she shows up, I literally will just stop watching. I'll turn it
I'm
off.
gonna put
and
you
we'll
in
do the rest of the
timeout, B.
podcast and zero.
Have you
What
put your
if,
baby in
the
timeout? I'll put you in
Mandalorian shows up?
timeout.
If the Mandalorian shows up, I definitely am gonna throw my TV out of the window. What are we doing here? Stop.
I'm gonna send
This
a
would- that would
glitter
be the
bomb to your
worst.
crib.
And I love Ahsoka. Like, she was awesome in that show. Just don't put her in the show. Let her have her own show, and it'll be great. Savon, how are they gonna mess this up? How are they gonna Disneyfy it?
I don't concern troll
You're not
about
preying
things
on
that
your
I watch.
downfall?
I don't prey on the downfall of things that I watch for entertainment. I don't know if this is just the new thing the internet or y'all like to do of just pretend everything will suck so that I don't know what that is. I'm about to watch the show, and if it's good, it's good, and if it's not, it's not. I'm not about to sit and just wring my fingers over and show what they're gonna do.
Savon does not
Hey,
understand
man.
content creation.
This
This
is-
is just
No,
you know,
I'm a
it's just
straight
talking
shooter.
point.
I keep it $1.50. I'm not here to create content for you.
You
clowns. I'm
50
here to
cents
spit
short,
some
bro.
truth.
You 50
That's
cents
my.
short.
I don't know. What they could do is have you and Brian continue to give Star Wars based takes. That's the worst thing they could do. The worst thing they could do is have like a fan commentary, and then they bring in y'all, you old Luddite decrepit
Oh my god, can I do the fan
Boomer.
commentary?
boomers.
Christian Haydenson needs to go. He's just not a good actor. And I don't.
You're not
a
a good actor.
I'm not trying to hate on him. I could not do it better, but I am hating on him because he's not a good actor.
Y'all are just.
Hey, he was
slinging
good in
these
Obi-Wan.
Y'all are slinging
Eh.
these ice cold takes. I'm gonna need the viewers at home, and if they listen to this, I'm gonna need them to really like. I'm gonna need people to take sides. We're about to go full civil war in this chat.
I mean, it is no secret that I do not like Star Wars at this point. So
No one, Star Wars fans
I
hate
like
Star
Star
Wars
Wars.
more than anybody.
I am not drinking the George Lucas Kool-Aid because it tastes
Star
like
Wars
piss.
fans, Star Wars fans like maybe 1 or 2 Star Wars movies between them.
I like Star
Which
Wars.
Star Wars movies do you like? What, Episode 5? That's it.
I like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, 5 sounds
9.
right. 4
I
and
like 'em all.
5.
I like all. I like all the original 3. I like the last 3. I just didn't like the prequels.
4, 5, and Rogue One. That's it.
Rogue One's good.
So you like 3 Star Wars movies out of all the shit they've put out.
And I've seen all of it.
That reached the Star Wars fans. Star Wars fans don't like nothing. I
Why do we
Star
hate
Wars
ourselves?
fans.
I think
like
we
it.
hate
That's
ourselves.
y'all who hate y'allselves.
I
don't
like
watch shit I
7
don't
of the
like.
movies. I'll take 7. I like 7 of the movies.
Y'all are awful.
Well, Mike doesn't like the last 3.
Mike don't
Which
like
ones?
anything.
Do you?
Yeah. Mike hasn't seen The Sunshine ever.
I don't think-
Well, do you like
I-
all? Do you like all like 12 of the Star Wars movies, including like Han Solo or whatever, and all these other ones?
Wasn't
Or nah?
crazy about Solo. I
Okay.
enjoy the original trilogy, although Ewoks are a big stain on Episode 6 for me.
Nah, I like it.
Episode 1, I enjoyed just because I was a
They're
kid
part of
and
their
that was my
environment. It's
intro into
about
Star
like David
Wars.
and Goliath, bro.
Yeah, and it was poorly. It was. I get what they were going for. It
They're
looked
walking
whack.
teddy bears.
It looked whack. It was walking teddy bears. You can't tell me that wasn't
Oh,
them just
haters.
trying to sell merchandise
Yeah.
to children. Like,
That's
don't
a
try
Teddy
and
Ruxpin play.
call it what it is. If you like it, I'm not gonna hold it against you, but I have every right to think it's awful. Like,
Alright.
if you're allowed to hate Gungans, which you're allowed to, I'm allowed to hate Ewoks.
I
Okay,
don't
that's
hate the
where I'm
Gungans.
at with it.
Just
I
Jar
will
Jar's
say
annoying.
counterpoint Transformers, the original Transformers movie, awesome. That's all there to sell toys.
Yeah, I mean, Transformers is a franchise
Hasbro.
meant to sell toys. All the stuff y'all grew up to in the '80s was just toy
All
selling
toy
campaigns.
commercials.
Absolutely.
So I don't want to hear shit
Every
about
single
y'all.
one of 'em.
Teenage
y'all.
Mutant Ninja Turtles, bro. I had all that stuff.
Yeah,
Oh,
so I
that
don't-
pre-existed
figures.
toys though. I will
Okay,
say
all
that.
right.
Yeah, it was a comic series.
But there's lots of toys that
Still,
went with it.
I don't want to hear that. Episode 1, I enjoyed because I was a kid. That was my foray into Star Wars. I like that the way people like 4. Like, sorry, it's just it has a place in my heart.
Okay.
2 was fun, similar
2 was the
reasons.
worst.
I enjoy 2 is probably the worst, but again, I was a kid and there was lots of other content I enjoyed around it. 3, I still maintain is the best Star Wars movie.
First half of 3 is terrible.
Three
also.
I think 3 is top. Like I could sit
3's
right
okay.
now and put on
3's
episode
okay.
3 and watch it top to bottom.
The second
and,
half
like,
I like. The second half I like.
I think
First
1 and
half
3 are
sucks.
okay. To be fair,
I think
right.
3 is peak Star Wars straight up.
All right.
4 was good, but too
That was
much
not the
like-
point of this episode.
this
No,
is
all right.
peak confidently wrong. I'd
Oh
say.
my
No,
god,
'cause
we're
y'all
just devolving.
started this.
I did. I'm sorry. We got to end it. This was supposed to be just about Andor, not about ranking Star Wars. That could be its own podcast.
This
We
is
can do
like-
that later.
Y'all whack
Not
ass
how
takes.
Andor's gonna get messed up. This is how our podcast is gonna get messed up.
Yeah, we just start
And
really getting
then
splinters.
the slow decline began.
The cracks.
Yeah.
This is the cracks, y'all.
no.
We get out 30 for 30.
This episode is going to be the one they point to.
At this moment, you can see a real divide form between Brian and Wesley.
They're gonna do a
Absolutely
slow mo replay.
After the departure of Mike in mid 2022, completely wrong to Savon, now left alone with the oldies.
I have no, I don't have any idea how long this thing is going to go, like how many episodes it has. Hopefully we got about 10 or so. But I'm excited. We'll see
this
how.
podcast.
No!
There's only 10
Oh,
more.
I thought you were about to say shit.
He's ringing the bell.
Oh my
right?
god.
Talk about Andor. I was like, oh,
No,
okay,
no, of Andor.
Planned
12? Oh, there's
obsolescence.
12. There's going to be 12 episodes.
Ooh, that's
Oh,
gonna be
really?
good.
So, yeah, so they're going for a while.
Oh wow.
So this will be good. We'll get to see it develop. We'll get to see it grow. I don't know how we didn't know that to start. You know, we didn't do our research, listeners. Sorry about that, but not sorry. It makes it more fun because now you're hearing us realize it in real time that we're gonna get a good show for 12 episodes. It's gonna be great. That's like half a real like series.
Can they hold it down for 12 episodes? I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
We'll see.
They got a lot of things they can do.
That's-
We're gonna learn more about Mon Mothma. I think
That's a
I
lot
think
of runway to screw up.
All right. It looks like Diego Luna is credited for 24 episodes, so they're gonna do a season 2 as well. It must have been confirmed at some point.
Guess they're
Interesting.
going all in. They need
Yeah.
a serious.
So they're going to
drama.
do at least 2 seasons of 12 episodes. Okay, well, let's wrap up there. Next week, we'll be back. We'll be kind of diving back into some things we've already talked about. They're kind of hitting their stride now. She-Hulk, and we wanted to talk about House of the Dragon. So look out for that coming next week. This show has been a lot of fun. Andor's been great. I think if everybody's listening to this, y'all should watch it. I mean, it's good. Give it a couple episodes, see if you like it. Friends, it's been a good one. We got to wrap up here. It's time to go. Bye.
Bye.